Welcome back, everyone. I've been looking forward to adding another video to the Biblical Insights series. Let's begin this with Exodus 4:21. Vayomer Yahweh el Moshe belechlecha leshuv Mitzrayma re'e kol homafatim asher samte veledecha va'asitam lifnei Pharaoh va'ani achazek et libo velo yeshalach et ha'am. And the Lord said to Moses, when you go back to Egypt, see that you do before Pharaoh all the miracles that I have put in your power, but I will harden his heart so that he will not let the people go. Was Pharaoh treated unjustly, or perhaps even condemned without a chance when God hardened his heart? Would Pharaoh have cooperated with Moses upon his first request to release the Israelites, or maybe after the second or third plague? Was God overpowering Pharaoh's will and causing an otherwise innocent man to defy him? Well, these interpretations, to start, fail to take into account something we see in the previous chapter. But I know that the king of Egypt will not let you go unless compelled by a mighty hand. So from the start, Pharaoh is going to need a good deal of convincing. Now, why would that be? Well, to answer that question, it's important to understand a little bit about who Pharaoh was. And one way we can do this is by looking at a symbol that was on the crown of Pharaoh. It's called the uraeus. A part of the function of that flared cobra was to protect the pharaoh with its fiery venom. We see this also in the pyramid texts. O red crown, O Inu, O great one, O magician, O fiery snake, let there be terror of me like the terror of thee. His uraeus serpents are over his head. The leading snake of Unas is at his forehead, she who perceives the soul of the enemy, she who excels in the force of fire. Beyond simple protection, there is enormous theological and political significance as well. The two tutelary goddesses of Egypt and Horus were represented in the cobra of the crown. They invested all their power, magic, sovereignty, and protection into the uraeus and thereby into Pharaoh. The Egyptians considered him omnipotent because of those imputed powers. He ruled the land as a god, as the incarnation and son of Ra, as the Horus, and as a combination of the goddesses of Upper and Lower Egypt. Pharaoh ruled the land as a god. Understanding Pharaoh's status helps us understand something we saw earlier in Exodus 3, but I know that the king of Egypt will not let you go unless compelled by a mighty hand. And Moses' numerous excuses before God about why he shouldn't be the one to talk to Pharaoh begin to make sense. At least we can sympathize. Pharaoh was larger than life, mythical, sovereign. The powers of the gods of Egypt were vested in him. And Moses was now a simple shepherd. So when he and Aaron went before Pharaoh to issue the command from the Lord, Pharaoh responded, "Who is the Lord, that I should obey his voice and let Israel go? I do not know the Lord, and moreover, I will not let Israel go." Pharaoh is opposed to the Lord from the start. Who is the God of Moses and Aaron compared to the gods of Egypt and Pharaoh? And when we get to the plagues, this juxtaposition between the God of Moses and the gods of Egypt is precisely the point. By the time we get to the Passover, we see, "On all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgments." You see, by this time there's been a series of plagues directed against the gods of Egypt. Turning the Nile into blood is a very obvious example. Another one is the plague of locusts, which darkened the sky, meaning in Egyptian theology that the sun god did not rise from the underworld. Even the death of the firstborn is ultimately targeted at royal succession. By the time the plagues progress to this point, Pharaoh is not only powerless to control Egypt, he can't even raise up a successor for his throne. But things get even worse for Egypt. John Courage shows that the plagues are decreation, with each one corresponding to a reversal in the stages of creation. By the time the plagues were done, having been drawn out by the hardening of Pharaoh's heart, Egypt was reduced from created order to chaos. God's miraculous power had been made known. But for this purpose I have raised you up, to show you my power, so that my name may be proclaimed in all the earth. There are numerous other polemics against Egypt that we could discuss, but there's one in particular that demands our attention as we return to the topic of Pharaoh's hard heart. On the left side of the scale, you see a human heart. On the right side is the feather of Ma'at, representing righteousness. After you die, your heart is weighed, and it needs to be light, so that it doesn't upset the scales. It needs to be light as a feather. If your heart is heavy, it's corrupted, sinful. It will tip the scales and you'll be devoured by that frightening-looking goddess crouched behind Thoth. It will not be a pleasant experience. But Pharaoh shouldn't have anything to worry about. In addition to his heart, like the heart of Horus and Ra, being sovereign over Egypt, it's also pure. But this is interesting because when we get into the Hebrew, there are several words used to describe Pharaoh's hard heart, and one of them is kaved, the stative verb meaning to be heavy. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Go into Pharaoh, for I have hardened kaved, his heart." God hardened Pharaoh's heart. He made it heavy. Contrary to Egyptian theology, Pharaoh's heart wasn't pure, and there was no reason to wait until the afterlife to weigh Pharaoh's heart against the feather of Ma'at. Pharaoh received his ruling during this life from his unexpected judge, the God of Israel. And the verdict is clear. Pharaoh's supposedly pure heart was actually sinful and corrupt. His heart was heavy. Thanks for watching.